Going to jump straight to our first guest, though, because the trade period continues in Fremantle with two deals done today, and the General Manager of football at Freo joins me now in Peter Bell. Belly, thanks very much for your time.
G'day, Paps. Nice to be with you.
Good to chat to you again. I think it was about this time last week that we spoke about Lachie Schultz and the fact that he requested a trade back to Victoria. That's been done. Liam Henry's been done. For you, you just kick the feet up now? Is it nice to have the deals done?
Oh, look, I wouldn't say it's nice when you lose players. That's not a nice feeling. We're pleased to be able to turn those players into what we think is fair compensation, albeit you then have to go and make the right selections at the draft or whatever else you do with those picks ultimately. So not nice, but good to have it done without too much pressure, I suppose, and letting it get into the hurly-burly of, late negotiations where there's a lot of pressure on a lot of clubs. Yeah,
that's the thing, isn't it? Rather than letting it drag on right until trade deadline, you've got it done. If we can start with Lachie Schultz, so you feel like you've got good compensation there, obviously a future first-rounder from the Magpies as well as a pick this year.
Yeah, it gives us some exposure in this year's draft, which we'd previously traded out of, but also the first-round pick for next year. Clearly, Collingwood, they can't go any better than what they did this year. So we're hoping that their future first might be a pick or two better than where they ended up this year. So we also like next year's draft. So all in all, it was going to take a lot for us to trade Lachie out because of his, on-field performances, his value to the club, but also the fact that he still had another year on his contract. We had to weigh up a lot of different things, including, what would the free agency formula and compensation be like in a year's time if Lachie decided to depart then. There was a lot to contemplate, but David Walls and his team did a great job, and Collingwood were also really great in negotiations. So we wish Lachie and his partner and their respective families all the best in the future.
If you didn't need any more incentive, but a good excuse to barrack against Collingwood?
Well, I'm sure that the Fremantle fans will be doing that. And look, we've got a good hand. I'm sure they'll be barracking against Port Adelaide as well. And we'll touch on Liam Henry and the second round St Kilda pick. So there'll be a bit of interest there for Freo fans.
Certainly is. I mean, I guess you guys are on the other side of that this year with trading away your first round picks to Melbourne. So you're now on both sides of the fence.
Yeah, that's right. And it's I talk a lot about the levers in footy for player movement these days, and that's only going to increase. But as I stated at the start of this conversation, perhaps it's never nice to lose players.
No, certainly not. Liam Henry's the other one, who I know you're disappointed to lose given he came through the academy, you'd invested a lot in him, but had nominated that he wanted to go to St Kilda. How did those negotiations go, and do you feel like you've got what you wanted there in terms of compensation, or is it a little bit light on?
Well, it really underscores that, the value of a contract, and when players don't have a contract, you obviously don't have the same amount of leverage when you're involved in negotiations. So we have to be cognizant of that. And look, they went a little bit slower, I think, those negotiations with Collingwood, but ultimately we decided that St Kilda's second round pick was something that we were interested in, and that there was a minor sort of pick swap of future fourth round picks, which was part of the deal as well. I guess it'll just depend, what we can do with that pick and what Liam does for the remainder of his career.
You've got the 3 first-round picks next year. You've clearly loaded up there with some other future round picks as well. What is it you've identified about next year's draft or free agents that are coming available or players, out of contract that are coming available that you're targeting? Yeah,
look, it's not. It's certainly not that we're strategizing to put all our eggs in the 2024 draft basket. I guess it's more an indication that there's a lot of other picks that will be taken in the first round this year, with Gold Coast having 3 or 4 really likely candidates. There's also father-son at the Bulldogs and a few others. We just saw those picks getting shifted further and further back. As it stands now, we've got some really good collateral, and we might use those selections, or we might use them for trade collateral. We might use them to get further up the draft. We might even use them to go back into this year's draft. We've got a lot of flexibility there, and we'll just make the right decisions as we see fit.
So you're done now in terms of player trades, you think, and most likely now just those pick swaps, as you said, which can be done right up until draft time.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you never say never. Trade period can often throw up surprises, but certainly we've got a bit of time now to take stock and plan our next moves.
Peter Bell, thank you very much for your time.
No problems.